Before I get into the rest of the review, I just want to mention the main standout element of this episode is they actually use the voices of the original actors who have passed, Renee, James Doohan, and Leonard Nimoy, to actually portray the characters, and they use it by literally taking audio from the episodes and piecing it together, which for the most part works and is quite clever, but there's a few bits with the last scene with Leonard that don't really work, and they probably should have kept that as minimal as possible. But it still was interesting to hear their voices and to sort of feel like they were part of the episode. Hello, Steve White, 89. Well, I watched the 6th episode of Prodigy, Kobayashi, which of course refers to the Kobayashi Maru. It was interesting. It was okay. The episode starts off with them coming out of warp. They've travelled 4,000 light years. They are now in the Gamma Quadrant, and they're trying to work out what this super fast engine is about. But Janeway doesn't know anything. Her memories have been classified, so she can't share any of it. Murph oddly swallows a bunch of, photon grenades, and they actually explode in his stomach, but he survives. He also finds, I'm just wrapping up Murph's story pretty quick for the episode, and he also discovers the holodeck, and this is where the second part of the episode sort of happens. Basically, they're looking for Murph, and Janeway explains to them what the holodeck is because they've never seen one before. So she shows them different places, Dracula's castle, one of her holodeck novels, Vulcan, skydiving. They originally were on Andor in the snow, and then they stumble across the Kobayashi Maru test, and he's like, "What's this?" And she's like, "It's a test for captains," and he feels like he is the captain. He feels like he deserves it, and he's good enough for it. And he's frustrated that his crew has come to him and said, "Look, we want to approach Starfleet. We can't handle this on our own. We need help." He's like, "Well, maybe they'll help us. Maybe they'll just arrest us for stealing a ship." And he's like, the other guys are like, "We are refugees. We need their help. They will help us," but he doesn't want any of it. And he ends up spending a big chunk of the episode going through the Kobayashi Maru test. Now, the only interesting thing about it is he doesn't have a crew. Like most people, it's a crew of cadets working together. His crew is holo-simulated, and he just asks for the best. So he gets Dr. Beverly Crusher as the doctor. He gets Uhura as the con. He gets security Odo, and he gets initially Spock as science officer, but he gets tired of Spock and eventually replaces him. No, sorry, he keeps Spock. He replaces the other, the guy who's with him, I've forgotten the species. I want to say troglodyte, but he's not a troglodyte. I can picture them, but yeah. Either way, he leaves. He's basically doing the simulation by himself with famous crew members of other Star Trek crews. So they've got Spock, Uhura, Dr. Crusher, Odo, and eventually he gets Scotty for an engineer. Movie Scotty. Oddly enough, there's movie Scotty, but there's original series Spock. Now, that didn't occur to me, that's odd. So he goes through the simulation again, like 100 times. He will not give up because he doesn't know it's a no-win scenario. He thinks he can beat it. And he does sort of a couple of times, but something always goes wrong. Like he manages to annoyingly use music to stop the Klingons from spying on him, and then he attacks them, he ejects the warp core, blows it up, and then another Romulan ship just shows up. Then him and Spock beam on to it's probably another simulation, beam onto the bird of prey, and they actually fight the Klingons. Spock knocks a couple of them out with the nerve pinch, and they win, but then he accidentally puts his feet up on the control panel and launches something at the Enterprise and blows it up. So no matter what he does, he always loses, and he loses his mind eventually, and he asks the computer, "Well, how was I supposed to win this?" And it's, the Kobayashi Maru is a test of character. It's a no-win scenario. It's a test of character to see how you react to a situation where you can't win. And then he gets it. Now, in the meantime, the other members of the crew were trying to work out what the ship is and so forth. They haven't gotten much, although I think Gwen was the character. Now, she's been down because she was sort of abandoned her father and realised that she really didn't mean anything to her. And there is a scene where they show that her father actually created her just so he could prolong his life or his race. And it's against the laws or the rules or something to actually create a progeny. So she's very special in that she was created, but she was created for all the wrong reasons, and she feels useless and like she's got no use. And the Medusan basically says, because she's like, what do you need a translator for? The ship can translate any language. And he's like, yes, but only a human can, or a being, a person can interpret it that, their way, not like a machine. So, you have a purpose. And she ends up opening up a bunch of data on the ship about the ship. And what they find is that Captain Chakotay was manning the ship and Janeway was there too. They see a brief hologram of them on the ship because one of the crew members, they've got a bunch of data in the air they're looking at there. They're like, it's partly decoded, but there's enough here we should be able to work out something. And she just touches a picture of Chakotay and it shows a brief hologram of him on the bridge, and Janeway's there as well. And Janeway is like, I don't think this has been my first crew. Did no one tell her about Voyager? But yeah, I think that's the episode in a nutshell. I can't think of anything else that happens. I don't know if this whole Murph being able to absorb photon grenade explosions is going to come into the story, but I'm guessing it isn't there just for laughs. He just gets a bit of gas afterwards, that's it. But yeah, that's the episode. Now, I don't have a huge issue with Prodigy, partly because it's not supposed to be a Star Trek show on one level, because it's a bunch of kids who've never been in Starfleet, don't know anything, who've just commandeered a starship, and no one was really expecting it to really be Star Trek or there to be any real Starfleet influence, even though Janeway's there as a hologram to guide them and so forth and instruct them or whatever. But it's really, my issue with it is it really feels more like Star Wars. The villains and just the whole, it's all about the father, and it just feels very Luke Skywalker, very Clone Wars. It doesn't feel like a Star Trek story. So that's a disappointing thing for me. It sort of feels like a more sophisticated version of Clone Wars at times, at least visually. And I'm just not sure where it's going to go. But overall, as a series, it's fine. And like I said, most people, like myself, weren't expecting really to get Star Trek out of it like we did with other newer Star Trek shows and were bitterly disappointed. This one just isn't the same, doesn't have the same issues. So I'm kind of enjoying it more. But then I have those moments where I feel like I'm watching Star Wars, not Star Trek. So, but yeah, I'm going to go. Feel free to share, like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you think. Sorry for my voice. Thanks.